Sound off with me, folks, on Kristaps Porzingis returning to the lineup and helping the Boston Celtics demolish the LA Clippers at TD Garden. This was a 32-point win that all revolved around the big guy who re-entered the lineup tonight. We've all been waiting for this all season long. And the moment finally arrived tonight, slightly to our surprise. We all found out earlier this afternoon when the Celtics sent out on social media that Kristaps Porzingis was probable for tonight's game. That is the first time that he has been not out for a game this season. As we know, he was recovering from off-season ankle surgery, and slowly but surely, he is back. He returned to the lineup tonight, and he looked excellent. This wasn't quite as good as he was during Game 1 of the NBA Finals after missing some time, but he sure did make an impact on this game, and we saw what Kristaps Porzingis brings to the table and what he does for this Celtics team. We're going to talk about that a little bit later in our fan commentary, but he looked great. As Pritchard said after the game in his walk-off interview in Arena, Kristaps Porzingis being back makes the Celtics whole again. And tonight they weren't whole in terms of having everyone on their team in terms of being complete. Al Horford missed this game. Luke Kornet missed this game. But the whole point is that Kristaps Porzingis being back means that the team is going to be whole. They already know they've got their big guy back. We all know Al Horford's going to play Friday night. Hopefully Luke Kornet will be healthy as well. That means the team is at 100% health here for the first time in the entire season, hopefully when they get back on the court Friday night. So him being back, it makes them complete. It changes the dynamic of the team on both ends of the court, and we're going to talk more about that later on, like I said. But tonight, he finishes with 16 points, 6 rebounds, 2 assists, 2 block shots at the rim, one of them on James Harden, and 1 steal. So, 22 and a half minutes that he played in this game, and he made an impact, a huge impact, the entire time that he was out on the court. Just everything you could have hoped for, he brought to the table. A little bit of rust on that three-point shot, only 1 of 6 from long range tonight, but that's going to come around. It's going to come around. I'm not worried about that, neither should you be. He's going to shoot the ball just fine from three-point range, but it's everything else that he brings to the table that really just changes the dynamic and takes the Celtics up a whole other level from what they've been so far this season. And remember, the Celtics were 14-3 on the season before tonight. They were 14-3 on the season without Kristaps Porzingis. They beat the Cleveland Cavaliers without Porzingis. They beat the Timberwolves without Porzingis. They beat the Bucks twice without Porzingis. They've done everything so far this season until tonight without their 7'3", game-changing, two-way star that changes this team and takes it to another level. They've done it all without him. And now he's back. And now the Celtics truly are reaching that dangerous level that we saw last season where it's just, you got to sit back and wonder, how the hell do you stop this team? They have everything that they need at both ends of the court as of today as they get back to full health. Like we said, Luke Kornet and Al Horford need to be back in the lineup. But when that happens, they'll be at full health, and they have everything they need to win another championship at both ends of the court. So pretty impressive that the Celtics were able to get off to this start, which, by the way, is a faster, a higher win rate through their first 17 games of the season than it was last season. Now they tacked another win on tonight. So they are ahead of their pace from last season when they went 64-18. And I'm going to remind you, I've said it already, the first 17 of the 18 games were played without Kristaps Porzingis. Tonight, the story of the offense was, as always, three-point shooting. These guys were just chucking it from all over the court, scored 66 points from long range tonight. That's basically a little under half of their total of 126. So great three-point shooting, 43% as a team. Multiple guys shot the ball well from long range. Derek White, Sam Hauser, Payton Pritchard. We're going to talk about these guys a little bit more. But one thing that I want to talk about here is the three-point shooting, in that some people say that Boston taking and making a lot of three-point shots is ruining the game, or it's not entertaining, maybe it's a little boring. I've got to tell you, what are you talking about? Like, we are watching an NBA team go onto the court and have a three-point shooting contest every night against real, live NBA teams. This has never happened before in the history of basketball. You've had teams like the Warriors back in the day with the Splash Brothers, who they would go out and they'd have a couple dominant shooters from long range. This Celtics team has an entire team of dominant shooters from long range, and they can't be stopped. The way that their offense operates, they create open threes time and time and time again, and they're not just open threes, they are open threes for deadly three-point shooters. They are scattered across the roster, and no team has been able to figure it out so far this season when it comes to defending this group. So the Celtics are taking threes at a historic rate. They are making threes at a historic rate. The offense is built around the three-point line, and to me, that's entertaining. You are watching the Celtics pick defenses apart every single night in drives and kicks and post-ups that lead to three-pointers, open, quality, good shots from long range. That's not boring. That's beautiful. Three-point shooting contests every night against live NBA opponents. That's what the Boston Celtics bring to the table each and every night. It's with their skill. It's with the dynamic level of athleticism that they bring to the table and the dynamic level of three-point shooting that they bring to the table from the top of the roster all the way to the bottom. It truly is incredible to watch every single night. I think the Clippers would agree with that after tonight's game. We've talked about a couple of bench players so far. Payton Pritchard continued to pad his resume for the Sixth Man of the Year award. He is certainly the leader in the clubhouse here, 18 games into the NBA season. Another 20 points tonight off the bench on only 13 shots. Extreme efficiency from Payton Pritchard. And some of these shots that he was taking were basically from the logo. Like we saw the other night, Jason Tatum's desperation three on the step back to win the game at the buzzer. Like, that was 29 feet that he shot that from, and it was on a step back. He had to fire it up, desperation. Payton Pritchard is shooting from deeper than that on purpose. Catch and shoots. Catching it and stepping into it off the catch. I mean, this is incredible, the shooting display that he is bringing to the table right now. He is the closest thing the Boston Celtics have ever had to Steph Curry. It's incredible to watch this happen night in and night out. And he's doing it off the bench consistently. I believe tonight was the fifth game of at least 20 points off the bench this season for Payton Pritchard. He is dominating as a scorer, as a shooter, and as a guy who can get it done from all three levels with the ball in his hands. Payton Pritchard certainly having a season right now that everyone has to look at and say that is the Sixth Man of the Year. Sam Hauser also 3 for 3 from long range. He shot it well tonight from long distance. Neemias Queta had a great night tonight. It was great to see him bounce back after a couple performances that weren't quite up to snuff and what we've come to expect out of him so far this season. Queta was back to looking like himself. He had 12 points, 9 rebounds, 3 assists, 4 blocks, and a steal. That is a stat line that our Taylor Snow sent out. Hasn't happened in 7 years. And the last guy to do it was Robert Williams. I know that excites our guy Chris Forsberg over at NBC Sports Boston, but having those two names related to each other, maybe the Celtics have something here in Neemias Queta. He's been great. Couple subpar games, like I said, but he's bounced back tonight, found his rhythm, looked like himself. That's how the Celtics need him to play night in and night out. And those three guys, Pritchard, Queta, and Hauser, all three of them finished with a plus-minus rating of at least plus 27 tonight. And that means, for those of you who may not know the stat, Boston outscored LA by at least 27 points tonight, while each of the three of those were on the court. Just dominant bench play. In the return of Kristaps Porzingis, it lengthens the roster, it bumps people back one spot, and it makes the Celtics that much deeper. And those guys, Payton Pritchard, Sam Hauser, Neemias Queta, when Al Horford comes back, these guys are all going to be playing against players from the other team's bench. And they're already that good against other teams' starters. So as the Celtics roster gets longer and longer, it becomes much more of a challenge to stop them when they are out there on offense for the opponents. 7 Celtics tonight scored between 9 and 20 points. This was a balanced offensive attack, and the defense wasn't too bad either. 43% shooting for the LA Clippers tonight. Abysmal three-point shooting, 27%. So Boston got it done at both ends, but offensively, just true balance across the board. It was a 50-40 night for the Celtics, 50% from the field or better, 40% or better from three-point range. The Celtics offense just keeps getting more and more dynamic. It's been a lot of fun to watch. All right, let's dive into some fan comments. We've got 3 of them coming in tonight. Our first is from Grant Bossy, who has a hot take on Kristaps Porzingis. What do you think that is? You're going to have to wait and listen. Next up, we've got Keith Grant, who's got a hot take of his own on where the Celtics stand right now as of today in the NBA. And then last but not least, we've got Just Brian, our longtime listener and watcher, who has a bunch of takeaways from tonight's game, and we're going to touch on all of them. So let's jump into the first one here. This one's coming in from Grant Bossy. All right, Grant Bossy with our first comment of the night says, maybe a hot take, but having a healthy Kristaps Porzingis on your basketball team is a good thing. What a hot take. I mean, scorching hot. I'm sweating in here. It's so hot. Yeah, that's a fact. Kristaps Porzingis coming back into the lineup for any team takes them up another notch, but you add him to a team that was already 14-3, and oh my God, do you have a dangerous proposition. Because Kristaps Porzingis is the player on the Boston Celtics who unlocks everything. If you've heard me talk a bunch after games before, you know that I say this about Kristaps Porzingis. He's the guy who unlocks everything for the Celtics. And the reason why is because he's 7'3". He can pick and pop. He can pick and roll. He can post up. He is the most efficient post-up player in the NBA when you look over the last couple of seasons. You add that to a team that's already blowing teams out and scoring at an incredibly high rate, and you've got what will soon look again, and it did tonight, as the most dangerous offense in the history of the NBA. I don't care what the numbers say from the start of the season, the first 17 when Porzingis wasn't playing. I care what it says here moving forward. And man, it's going to be next to impossible for any other team in the league to be more dangerous and more efficient than this group with Kristaps Porzingis back in the lineup. He's a three-point shooter. He's a mid-range shooter. He's a 7'3" guy who can just stand there and shoot over his defender no matter who his defender is, and he can post up. He's got the moves to do it. He can pass the ball. He is a complete offensive player, and you add him to a team with dynamic wings like Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, with dynamic guards like Drew Holiday and Derek White, with other shooters on the team like Payton Pritchard, Al Horford, Sam Hauser. My, oh my, oh my, are the Celtics just overflowing with talent. It is an abundance of talent on this team, and I just don't see how any team is going to stop them if they remain healthy for the rest of the season. Knock on this desk right now. But Porzingis is back. It is a super hot take to say that him being on the basketball team makes you better. It is true. It is a good thing. It is a great thing for the Celtics. KP is back, and the Boston Celtics have just reached a whole other level. All right, our next comment coming in from Keith Grant saying Celtics, with a shamrock, are clearly the best team in the NBA, with 4 exclamation points. I love it. Someone actually responded and said they're the best team, but a lot of time, the best team doesn't always win. Let's slow our roll a little bit. Let's talk about this. Best team in the NBA, it's not by record. As we all know, the Cleveland Cavaliers won their first 15 games of the season. They lost to the Celtics, and now they are back to winning yet again. The Cleveland Cavaliers deserve the attention. They deserve the praise. They are the best team in the NBA right now when it comes to records. But you want to talk about the best team in the NBA when it comes to danger, when it comes to dominance, when it comes to, oh my God, I don't want to see them in the postseason. This team, the Boston Celtics, are the best team in the NBA when it comes to that. Because, as I've already said, this team has literally everything you would want at both ends of the court to be able to win and win in emphatic fashion. It has everything you would want at both ends of the court to be able to make a run to a championship, and the Celtics have already done that. That is a differentiating factor between them and the Cleveland Cavaliers. What we're seeing from the Cavs right now, we've never seen before, and we don't know what it's going to look like moving forward. We've already seen this from the Celtics. They've already been this good. They've already won a championship. This is running it back and seeing if they can do it again. So we already have all of the evidence of what Boston is when it's whole, and it just got whole tonight. It is a dangerous proposition for the rest of the league. Again, Cleveland is the best team in the league right now when it comes to record, but you want to talk about danger in a team that other teams don't want to play, I think the Celtics are at the top of the top when it comes to those. All right, our last comment of the night coming in from Just Brian. We appreciate you listening and watching. You've been a long time listener and watcher of the podcast. He says, Nemi played really well. Pritchard is in range wherever he is when you read this. Good to see Baylor, Walsh, and Springer get time. And it was like KP has been playing the entire time. Looked great. Immaculate smiles. He always brings that to the table. Aura is on a whole other level when the Celtics have Kristaps Porzingis around. And then lastly here, tonight was without Horford and Luke to make this even scarier. Let's go through one by one of some of these comments. Nemi played really well. We already talked about him. 12 points, 9 rebounds, 4 blocks off the bench. First guy to log a stat line like that with a couple assists and a steal since Robert Williams for the Boston Celtics within the last 7 or so years. So he looked great. He's back to himself, who we came accustomed to expecting to take the court over the first month or so of the season. He looked awesome. Payton Pritchard is in range wherever he is when you read this. Yeah, he could be home by now, which I'm pretty sure he is. And I think if he rolled over, grabbed the ball, let it fly, I'm pretty sure he's got a chance of putting it in here at TD Garden, especially if the shot clock is running down and the quarter clock, okay? You know he's going to put it in. But this man has range that the Celtics have never seen. No one on the Celtics ever has had range like Payton Pritchard is displaying right now, shooting him from the logo. The last thing that I want to comment on here from Just Brian is good to see Baylor, Walsh, and Springer get some time. I think that's a great takeaway to take from this game. Yes, Boston won by 32 points. It dominated, but that's a great thing to get the older guys some time to rest up, even though they got the next few days off. But anytime you can save minutes for them, especially on the second night of a back-to-back, you always want to do that. But the trickle-down effect is that you get some of these young guys some extended run and some action on the court. Jordan Walsh, one of the players mentioned here, he played 7+ minutes, made a three-pointer. It was good to see him get a little bit of a rhythm out there. Baylor Shireman and Jaden Springer each played 5+ minutes. Jaden Springer had a nice little stretch there. Had a steal, almost had an and one at the rim, played really well. And Baylor Shireman, I mean, listen, this guy's a rookie. Let's be honest, he's probably at the end of the roster right now in terms of when you're looking at playing time. And the reason is because this roster is so stacked. So he came into the season not necessarily finding his role or finding his rhythm on this team, but he went up to Maine and he's getting back on track, and you love to see it. Tonight, finally, he gets out on the court for 5+ minutes, but the Celtics didn't really do anything statistically that we need to dive into. A couple of rebounds, an assist as well, so you love to see those things. But I think he's just continuing to find his rhythm here in the NBA. It's not easy coming into the NBA and just immediately understanding what you need to do, where you need to be, what your rhythm is, what your niche is within a team. Jason Tatum's one of the rare guys who has ever done that for the Boston Celtics. So it takes time. I think Baylor Shireman has not looked his best in the preseason, early on in the regular season, but he's going to get there. Give the guy some time. He's going to develop. Sam Hauser wasn't there when he came into the league. Look what he is now. Payton Pritchard, a little bit when he came into the league. Look what he is now. Players develop over time. Give Baylor Shireman some time to develop. But it was great to see him be able to be out there for a little bit of extended run alongside Jordan Walsh and Jaden Springer. So the Celtics, they pull off a 32-point win in Kristaps Porzingis' return to the lineup. They are back whole, and they are going to be able to take on the Chicago Bulls on Friday night in a game that has a whole lot of meaning. And now, why does it have a whole lot of meaning? It's the fourth and final NBA Cup game, baby. The Celtics have a chance to go 3-1 in the NBA Cup, and it's going to be a big deal if they are able to do so because they'll put themselves in a position to very likely push themselves into the knockout stage. Now, here's what we've got in store for Friday night. The Celtics will know when they tip off, essentially, if they need to win the game to be able to win their group, okay? The Celtics, earlier in the day, the Atlanta Hawks have an opportunity to win the group when they play the Cleveland Cavaliers. If Atlanta wins that game, they win the group. And the follow-up factor to that is that the Celtics are going to need to win by a lot in Chicago to win a wild card slot in the Eastern Conference. Now, if Cleveland, which by the way is the best record in the NBA right now, if they are able to beat Atlanta on Friday, that means the Celtics just need to win. All they need to do is win to advance to the knockout stage in the quarterfinals. But they will win Group C if they win Friday and Cleveland wins Friday. But again, on the flip side, if Cleveland loses and Atlanta wins, that means that the Celtics have to play for a wild card bid, and it's the only wild card bid in the Eastern Conference. So you're competing against all the other teams that didn't win their groups, and it all comes down to point differential. So if Atlanta wins, then the Celtics know going into Friday night's game, they've got to win by as many points as possible to give them a chance to win that wild card bid in advance into the quarterfinals. We saw it last season against this same Chicago team. Billy Donovan was trying to figure out, what are you doing? You're running up the score on our guys. And Joe Mazzulla went over and said, hey, this is what I have to do. We have to win by as many points as possible to try to advance and have our best situation going into the quarterfinals. Well, it might happen again. Sorry, Billy, but that might come up again on Friday night. Tip-off is at 8 o'clock out at the United Center. It should be a whole lot of fun. Again, the Celtics will know going into that game if they win, or they're going to know if a win will secure their bid into the quarterfinals simply by winning Group C, or if that's not the case, they're going to know that they have to win by a lot to try to win the wild card in the Eastern Conference. All right, Friday night tip-off at 8 o'clock. It's the Celtics and the Bulls for the fourth and final game of the NBA Cup for the Celtics. Before then, though, Thanksgiving is right on deck. So everyone, I hope you have a great Thanksgiving. Enjoy the time with your friends and family. Be thankful for everything that you have in your lives. I am thankful for you listening and watching to us tonight. Make sure you respond to my tweet after the game Friday night so I can pull a few of your comments for our next episode of Sound Off with the Boston Celtics. Happy Thanksgiving, and I'll see you Friday night.